Today I talked to Anita Roy. She is currently the Deputy Commissioner of Police Security in the Delhi Police. She feels that she is a cop for the citizens. That is only one side to her. In this conversation, we explore the other facets, like her being a national level powerlifter and a compassionate mother. We spoke about the defining moments in her life that makes her a truth-seeking police officer. She shared how good communication is the mantra that has helped her build trust with her team, the complainant, and even diffuse high strung situations like public protests. Anita also shared with me how her work has had far reaching impact by inspiring young female constables to be in the field and show them what is possible when they didn't believe in themselves. The conversation is going to leave you feeling charged. Question if you can do more with your life and opportunities, and even force you to think about adversities as defining moments of your life. Enjoy the conversation and keep meditating. I'm very curious, what made you choose this career option? You had, I'm sure, many options. Of course, your father was in the police, so you saw that most closely. But it's not necessary that you would have chosen that path as an automatic choice. So, what really guided you to make this decision?
Okay, so, well, growing up, I just know that it was almost predestined.
Oh,
There was always this expectation of me that you're going to crack the civil services, you're going to be the youngest civil servant, not necessarily policing, but my dad was always grooming us to be civil servants. It was an unsaid thing that my kids will take on my boots. And yeah, I was very influenced by my father because he was a very respected civil servant. He was somebody with a indelible reputation. He was very, very straight and very accessible. But uh, as a woman, I didn't really relate to him so much. I remember we used to see only Doordarshan. At that time, there was this Udaan serial that had come.
acha.
And it was about the real life Kavita Chaudhary's life as a civil servant. So I would really watch that serial with a full imagination, hooked like big time. And I really related to that character because it was a story of a lady who actually believed in poetry. She would recite Rabindranath Tagore,
Acha.
and her conviction would come from there. And how when she entered the service, the kind of discrimination she faced, and yet her, conviction to take the right path, and her determination, those things really motivated me because it was a female's perspective to the system. How do you take on the system with a calm mind and strong conviction? That image was very close to me. And as I was graduating, it was a bit of a distraction for me because when I did my master's from JNU, I was like, no, academics is my field. But it was a bit too late. My dad was like, you better take your first attempt. Let's see. I mean, it was really, really just going with the flow. I said, okay, I'm going to take an attempt and see how it goes. But as destiny had it, I got through the first attempt.
That's a
I
big
was
deal.
22, and there goes my journey. I began my journey.
Wow. So you're basically saying you watched a television show, that's what inspired you. So tell me a little bit more on what values did you borrow from that? I heard you say determination, bunch of other stuff, but how has that influenced your value system today?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, that she would often recite this poetry by Rabindranath Tagore, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. And I would actually recite that. I remember the poet growing in me when I would see that. And values, yes, values, of course, is a very, very, very big word because you imbibe values from your parents, your environment, the struggles that you put in. So, in that sense, a large part of me is coming from my mother. Because Pragya, it didn't matter to her whether she was in that post or this post. Her commitment to her children was unanimous. I mean, While in my father's case, I could say that he had all the attention. But this lady was, like the background.
Yeah.
And she was in the silent, non-recognized zone, but she had such conviction and clarity that she would always tell us that I couldn't reach that level. I got married young, she got married at 18, 19, but my daughters have to be strong. And she was very firm about it, that you all have to be independent-minded and you will not depend on anyone for your decisions. So that was a very big force in my life. Of course, from my father, I learned a lot of things that have influenced me as an officer. His humility, and he would always address people by their first name. There was no rank. There was no Constable Jai Bahadur. There was just Jai.
Yeah.
So that humanity, that everybody has an agency. I learned a lot of that from my father, how he used communication so powerfully. He was a person with a very high accessibility index. People, like his subordinates, would just worship him. कि अभी मतलब इस अफसर में हमें faith है, like विश्वास है कि ये, in police, even how you treat your subordinates decides how the team moves.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can manipulate the stats, you can make it look good, but the team won't be united.
Yeah.
So I learned that from my dad, and of course, I learned from my own adversities. I have to be honest about this. Very young in my life, I was a mute witness to sexual violence. But then, for me, there was never a negative force, because I would put all that energy into my learning, my pursuit of knowledge, and I mean, I've been a consistent performer, but it would come out. And for instance, if I was running a 4x100, that Anita would be the last 100 meters always. So that there was always that passion to push it harder, And like I mentioned, I reached into the police through fits and starts. It was predestined, but yes, I did change my mind. But in 12th, I was in DPS RK Puram, and how you just have to be either a top medical student or you have to either make it to engineering, and I didn't get through medicine. So everyone was like, dip side not getting in, my father. I was like, okay, we'll take this easy on me. I went into a bit of a questioning process that, am I there really? This was the first competitive exam I faced, and I didn't really make it. But then I had this, I just decided I'm going to change stream. I took, history in LSR, and I just didn't look back. I decided this is it. I grew into a better person, a stronger person. So, yes, I believe values come from the time that you're challenging them, and adversity teaches you more than anything else.
Very well said. It's incredible that you say that all the challenges that you have faced and the choices that you have made in those moments have really brought you to be this very strong person.
And the definition of self is,
molded.
It's an ever-going process. I might discover something more as I go down the line. So
yeah, for sure. But I think very often when you have failure early on in life, there are moments that you start, like you said, you start to question who you were, and this is what was in a way slated for you, in the way that, people must have said, you didn't make it, like you've always been a top ranker, and yet you've not made it to what everyone perceived you to be.
Absolutely.
And at that point, I think what I'm hearing you say is you were
I just changed tracks. Let's try something new.
Yeah,
why not?
Exactly.
I mean, if it's civil services a dream, then why not start now? That's when I started history and then JNU and everything. So I went ahead, and in terms of institutions, I must say that LSR was such a beautiful place to be. I actually blossomed. I forgot all my, identity issues. Every day was growth. There was dramatics. There was, I went into debating. I tried a lot of things there, and there was music society. I just felt like really the blossoming of a flower, because there was freedom to do new things, and there was a very, very stimulating environment where you meet so many interesting people. So life is about what you make of it.
Hi, I hope you're finding the show engaging so far. Drop a comment below. It could be something you laughed about, something that made you pause, and even something that moved you. Especially what you heard shifted your beliefs. Just put it all down. I can't wait to hear from you. So you spoke about communication, right? And I think that is very relevant for everyone. And even in the police force, where most of us as citizens, feel this angst when we go in and talk and interact with the police, that, why is it that there's no empathy, or why is that, when we are in a difficult situation, we expect a lot of compassion and kindness, and then in those moments, what we get is the complete opposite, right? So, you as an officer in that role, where have you seen bringing out the side of you, and also how have you changed that for others in your team?
Yeah. This is something that's truly close to me, because if people talk in terms of police officers as how many criminals you interrogated and how many encounters you've managed or whatever, I mean, but for me, policing has always been about the power of communicating with your teammates, with the public. I'll just give you an instance. Very early in my career, it was my first appointment in Delhi Police, and all of us wanted prime postings, all the field where the action is, where you're catching robbers and you're interrogating and your late night duty patrols. And guess where I landed up? I landed up as in licensing. Completely, completely
What a
different profile.
disappointing, yeah.
And I was like, gosh, is this what I signed up for? So I started my journey there, and see how I grew, because I was handling arms licensing, and anybody who has had interface with the licensing unit at the time that I joined saw it as a place that was inaccessible, where you had nothing like defined procedures and timelines, and people thought, they would probably get their way through touting outside of the boundaries of the department.
Very typical.
You're not going to be able to manage a law and order situation with force. You only manage it with communication.
Yeah, communication, a lot of negotiation, I'm sure, but also both things, right? Where you spoke about your team. If you're communicating well with them, they will be standing behind you.
You need to talk, you need to encourage.
Yeah.
You need to tell them that you have as much agency. You need to discuss with them. Like my last to last posting was additional DCP North, and it was a Dharna Pradarshan is a day-to-day thing. Achha. My day would begin at 8, rather late in the night at 8, when I would 6, when I knew this is happening. So there used to be a draft law and order arrangement. What are the accesses we have to block? What's going to be the strategy? So the communication process would start there. Who are coming? We would go 2 levels ahead and discuss with them. What's your plan? You just want media attention. And of course, we are not fully trusting them, because we get intelligence inputs on what is the intention of these people. So every separate bracket had a separate strategy. If it's the blind, there's a different strategy. If it's the students, there's a different strategy. If it's political activists of a certain party, a different strategy. So you kind of start thinking from the back end. And mornings used to be about, the barricade alignment and talking to your men. So I would always make it a point to come much ahead in time and tell them that we don't need to use force today. Let's just put up a brave front. Be patient. Just be patient. And do not misbehave. Because so often we could say a rude thing, and a well-managed law and order situation can be a blot. So law and order, there were times, Pragya, when things grew out of hand.
Give me one example. I'd love to know.
I don't want to name the parties.
No, don't name. Just name
things grew out of hand
situation.
when the first barricade is crossed, the second barricade is crossed, and you really have a law and order situation.
Sure.
And it happened once that, in spite of our best efforts, best negotiation, things did go out of hand. But where communication helped me is because I just put the whole situation very clearly to my bosses, that this was an agreed charter. we did not want to go high on, any kind of, because senior leadership was involved.
Sure.
So I put it across in the form of a very, very detailed inquiry report. And from that inquiry report, I learned a lot. How am I going to manage situations that are going to go out of hand in the future?
How do you diffuse them?
How to diffuse them, because there are times when it is actually very difficult in a tough law and order situation. So learning is a continuous process, but just being honest to the fact that in spite of our best efforts, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 succumbed. But it was not a failure of planning. It was a situation where there had to be restraint and use of force. And, it was a learning process.
Because that's
but just putting it across honestly, communicating clearly to both the people who were part of the protest and the leadership, it was a clear slate for me, because I put it all clearly that there's no point punishing our officers. And nothing is predictable in a situation like that. So, and then we were flawless. I mean, after that, we simply did not allow. We did not trust anymore, to the point where people had to tell us, how about taking things slightly easy now? We just want media attention. So it's every situation is unique. You got to just talk to. So what I was saying was that large part of the law and order, barring a few incidents, went off well because there was a back-end communication, a front-end communication, and a team communication.
Yeah.
It was all through.
And
that's when you stand strong. And you're aligned. That's why in all arrangements, I mean, I put in 22 years of service. It was always about detailed briefing. Do not assume that the officer knows his role. Handhold, brief patiently. Do the drill. Be honest to the drill, because the officer may be carrying some disgruntlement from home. He may not have slept enough. He may have had a night duty. So just patiently reinforce.
Yeah. How do you also use this skill of communication when you're interrogating criminals, right? That can be a very difficult place, because I'm sure there's a certain amount of personal emotion that also comes up in absolute hateful crimes.
Yeah. I would discuss not just communication with criminals, but also with complainants.
Yes.
And how it has been so helpful. I'll give you one instance of a complainant first. And I was a ACP Patel Nagar. Again, my first field assignment. After a lot of pull and push, I got there. So, you have to assert that I'm ready for a full-fledged active profile. And
yes.
So, there was a very innocuous complaint. And it had kept doing the rounds. And every time I would ask, how is the inquiry report? It would be like a wishy-washy inquiry. It was about I don't remember the age, but probably 6 or 7 years old child having faced sodomy by a local quack. The local quack in that context was a person with good linkages in police, and he was a person who had kind of set his stage for every defense. And I just, because you have a bunch of complaints, not bunch, you have a deluge of complaints to handle every day.
Sure.
But I picked up this one. And I want to talk to the father and I want to talk to the son. So the father came, and when I first met the father, I saw that he was influenced and he was denying. He was denying because probably he had been managed or pressured. But then I sent him aside. I want to talk to your son. And the child sat with me. I made sure that the environment was
comfortable
secure, and not intimidating to the child who had walked into the police station. And 1 hour into the discussion, he started weeping. And I figured that this is obviously a complaint that has been managed. And then I sort of went the back end, and we got the investigation done properly. And for that one action, I could save the image of police when it went to the National Child Rights Commission, because this child spoke for me. He said that there was this lady who spoke to me, and I have nothing against police. So even for all those inquiries that looked managed, at least that one-to-one with that child saved us, because there are always people in the system who want to talk. So that's from the complainant end. Similarly, in many
You were
cases.
so honest to him. He must have felt like there's somebody
Yeah,
listening to me,
exactly,
somebody standing by me, because
exactly.
you
Yeah,
feel helpless.
and he was not getting that support from his parents.
Yeah.
Let alone police. He was not getting it from his father, because I saw that the father was sounding very educated and nuanced and you know, like
Prepped up.
क्वैक के पास तो इस छोटे से इसको कुछ इशू था, उसके लिए मैं लेके गया था, उनकी तो अच्छी रेपुटेशन है, बच्चों को कई बार समझ में नहीं आता है कि सोडोमी क्या होता है, उनकी मानसिकता ये कैच नहीं कर पाती. तो मैंने कहा चलो बच्चे से ही बात कर लेते हैं. So that's where it worked. Similarly, when it comes to criminals, I just believe in one-on-one. Whenever I've been in a field assignment, whether it's a case of murder, whether it's a case of rape, whether dacoity, any heinous crime, you have to. I have had a policy that I will talk to all connected. Sometimes the maid spills the beans.
Yes.
Sometimes it's the wife who's been facing this oppression. Sometimes the the father who's been a silent figure in the story, or the child. I mean, so many cases get solved just by patient, sustained cross-questioning. Nobody admits guilt, and it's also a big myth that police brutality gets confessions. No, they don't stand in court. And there's no point to solving a case like that till you can corroborate it with, surrounding evidence. To get that evidence, you have to get the confession.
Yeah.
To get the confession, you have to build trust. So it has really worked. And inside department also, with my team, I've used it a lot. I've used it, like I said about licensing. Similarly, I can tell you that I was posted as additional DCP West. And additional DCP West 2, like there are 2 additionals,
Okay.
Additional DCP 2. So my profile was largely logistics and, upkeep of the police stations, but I was interested in something more dynamic.
Of course.
So again, I picked up this young lot of girls. They had just joined. I'm like, why not? Why don't we just do sustained self-defense campaigns? I can have my own team of 10 girls. I picked up girls randomly who were not really enjoying the professional space of challenges in the police stations, and yet had time issues. They wanted to be, doing something that would give them, a disciplined time space.
Okay.
So I picked up these 10 girls, and I picked up a lady who I saw in a self-defense show. She was a private girl.
Acha.
Private as in she was not part of the police.
Police, I understand.
And I saw a lot of passion in that girl. I said, her name was also Anita.
Acha.
I picked her up and I'm like, you're going to train my
You
girls.
Anitas are going to change the world.
No, she was a pahadi.
Acha.
And Pragyaan, the kind of determination she had. I picked her up and I'm like, look, this is the platform. She was not very happy with the space she was enjoying. She wanted to start her own training school. I said, why not start from here? We will give you enough branding, we'll give you enough recognition. And she was willing to come. So there is these 7 girls. I started with 7 girls. I made sure that they did a completely holistic self-defense training. And again, here we sat and we revised the whole cliched self-defense training paradigm. Why only these kicks? Why not make it very practical?
Yeah.
Why not make it irrespective of the, the weight and height and flexibility of the girl? She should still be able to defend herself.
True.
So we revised this whole thing. I used to sit with these girls. And we took support of some professionals. But I used to sit with these girls and we used to think, this cake would work, this kind of punch is more practical. So we and beyond office hours, because this was not part of my mandate. So I did this, and then those 8 girls, Pragyaan, I was in West District for a good 2.5 years. Those 8 districts and this lady together went to every school and every college of West District. And almost 8,000 girls got trained in self-defense. Just those 8 girls. Those 8 girls led this campaign, which later on became a flagship program of Delhi Police. I remember Amulya Patnaik sir was a commissioner, and we called him and I said, sir, we've done this in West. every single district in Delhi can easily replicate this.
Yeah.
Because one CAW cell does not suffice for the street crime in the city. So we need to do Sashakti was the name he chose, and then we inaugurated this flagship program, and then of course Sashakti now is a very talked about community policing scheme of Delhi Police. So the power of communicating with these 8 upstarts
Is huge.
yeah, and then we would go. I made it a point to go to every school. I've just told them that I will come on the finale. I will come. I'll speak to those girls, and this is the symbol that stays with me. That and people say uniform. For me, only those moments were precious. When I would walk into the school and that little shy girl would come and tell me that I want to be a police officer.
Oh,
that is precious.
it melts you, huh?
And they would say, and so many girls who went through self-defense training would speak up. And they would transform in those 7 days from those meeky, subdued, little girls to people who can scream.
Yeah.
Scream in a hall and say, this is injustice. And I would talk to them. It doesn't matter how many kicks you've learned. It doesn't matter whether you can execute those punches on the street when you face the situation, but what matters is that you're going to speak up. So I would make it a point to talk to these girls. I would tell them why self-defense techniques, why policing, why Delhi Police wants to take this up, because, Pragya, the police to public ratio can never be enough to stop the street crime in the city. It's happening in buses, it's happening in local markets, it's happening in homes. Where and all can a police officer pitch in? Yeah. The citizen has to speak. So that was the essence of the program, that we want people who can speak for themselves. So our job is to protect you, but our job is also to empower you to speak.
Yeah.
So again, it's just communicating with people.
No, absolutely. I think when we also associated was for a similar campaign, right, around women's safety that Truecaller ran, and I saw the passion and the commitment that the Delhi Police overall brought, but also personally you, and I think that's where we build our bond. But safety, not only in the real world now, even in cybersecurity or the cyberspace is becoming huge, right? And I see that the Delhi Police or various police authorities are trying to ramp up, but it's going to take some time for them to get there. Anything that you have seen, I think now I would say scams and frauds, financial frauds are really at a all-time high. Mm-hmm. But interacting with society constantly, I'm sure you would have seen different trends and different things going up and down, right? So what do you think is, in the last 22 years that you've noticed and worked with society, what are the evolutions that you feel are positive? Like technology can be one. And what are some that you feel have really degraded the values and degraded society broadly? And what we can do to sort of maybe
That's a
fix
massive question. You're asking me to summarize 22 years of policing in one go. Okay, so in terms of trends in crime, definitely traditional crime is not so much the focus anymore. But white-collar crime and cybercrime, those are the real challenges today. Cheating, other white-collar crimes, and cybercrime. And I have done my LLM in cyber law. So
How much have you studied? Oh my God. Okay, go on.
I'm an academician at heart. Yeah. Surviving in a uniform, let's say.
Two ends of the spectrum, academician and then ready to
but
be...
they're very united. They're very harmonious. There is no dispute. Okay, so in terms of trends in crime, I could say that this is a definite shift. Because, and this is a very difficult shift for police. Because cybercrime is so rampant. It's that unseen face. The footprints are so, there is no territory.
Yeah.
It's like transnational. And there are not enough, treaties across nations to be able to pursue the criminal.
And get the information you need.
And get the information you need. So yes, cybercrime is a very big challenge. And it's vicious because There are so many studies which say that women in the age group of 18 to maybe 30 have all faced, sexual violence online in different forms.
Yeah.
In different forms, and it has really changed their self-concept, and they are not speaking about it. It's all happening at the same time.
There's a lot of shame attached
There's
to
a
it.
lot of shame attached to it. People don't want to speak about it, and it all starts with an innocuous friendship.
Yes.
And how far it goes is sometimes something that is beyond the control of the person who is such an influential, and there is so much innocence to being on. People just share their passwords, they share their family details, they share their footprints, and they get into trouble. So yes, the biggest challenge today is definitely cybercrime, and Delhi Police, as you know, has a separate IFSO wing
Yes.
that is working intensively on it. Similarly, every district now has a cyber security police station,
Yes.
which was a major threshold beginning made in the time of Commissioner Rakesh Asthana ji, where every district, because the enormity of cybercrime is so high that one unit cannot deal with it.
Yeah.
So now every district is taking up cases. There's monitoring of the online portal where cyber portal, people can register their complaints. Now there is actual monitoring of what about those cases that have come. Have they been registered at FIRs? Is there a progress in the investigation?
Yeah.
Or have they been just summarily closed without investigation?
Yeah.
So today we are more accountable. We are gearing up, should I say. I don't think we're very much there in terms of the skill of the people who are. We need continuous technological upgradation because it's such a dynamic field.
Yeah.
People are. It's unimaginable.
Yeah.
And in the middle of other things, you still have to focus on cybercrime. There's still that law and order, there's still that street crime, and there's still that cyber complaint.
Yeah.
So in the middle of all that, we are prioritizing, we're doing it. And what we're doing more is cyber awareness campaigns. Like I was in DU. So we just selected this open college, where women do part-time studies. So we would go to these classes, and massive participation. And these girls will sit with them, and we talk to them about what are the do's and don'ts. We want to break it down to simple things. We needn't necessarily discuss blockchain.
Oh, yeah.
But we can just break it down for them as citizens who can be cautious while being online. And the other big issue, say you're a cybercrime victim. What is your redressal? That is another issue that we are focusing on in terms of raising awareness, because they need to know who to approach. They need to know what is a cybercrime portal, how does the investigation go through, what is the court process.
Yeah.
So the awareness was both about laws and also about the redressal mechanisms and how they can, reach out.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is a topic which is really, as you know, close to my heart, and we've been doing a lot of work around cyber safety. And you so rightly pointed out, some of our interactions with college students and also with law enforcement has been around this, where can we bring a collaborative approach to solve this, because there's really no one agency, no one company that can solve this. And a lot of what we are doing is in the financial fraud and scam space. So yes, I brought it up because I think there's a lot that can be done, both from the LEA and from private companies like Truecaller, and we continue to work on that agenda. But I'm going to shift gears a little bit and say, I know there's a completely different side of you where you do a lot of fun things in your personal life. But the one thing I do want to go a little bit and double down on is, you have been the Delhi state champion as a powerlifter. You also have very many other accolades, and I'm not going to go through the accolades because there are many, but I want to understand why powerlifting. How did you pick that, and how does it feed into who you are as Anita, and also who you are as Anita as the police officer, if at all?
Pragyaan, very early in life, I was like maybe 6th, 7th. I was a very good athlete. Like I told you, the 4x100 relay, last 100 was Anita Roy. So I just love sports. I mean, let's talk fundamental. the fact that you go out there and you take a chance, and the victory or loss is just so neat. I mean, you win it, you lose it, you accept it. So I've been a sports person deep inside. Powerlifting happened through a series of unique situation. It was COVID, and I was COVID positive, and I was going through the 14 days quarantine.
Okay.
And I took a stock on my health. I'm like, no way. I have to be better than this. I can't take this. Breathing was not good enough. Of course, it was COVID as a strain. But overall, I realized that I have to do better than this. I mean, life is going to be more challenging as it goes on. And I've always had this thing that if I wear a uniform, it has to be elegance. I won't just wear it. It has to show power. It has to look elegant. So at that moment, and I think 2021, I discussed with my husband, who's an active bodybuilder, and he's very committed to the idea of my health. So we had a big discussion about this. He's like, no, we have to turn tables around. You've got to forget about soft things. Let's try weightlifting. And I got a personal coach because, as you know, that there was a long period in which everything was shut down in COVID. So there were nothing like gyms.
Yes.
So I got all the equipments at home and
set up your
even
own
with
gym.
those semi-breaths and poor breathing, I was like, I'm going to do this. And I did it. And see, powerlifting, it just looks...
tell me a little bit more, what is powerlifting? Because,
Okay.
we know about weightlifting.
Yeah.
What is powerlifting?
Yeah, I'll discuss that. So powerlifting looks very glamorous, but powerlifting is all about... It's not about the weights. It's actually not about the weights. It's about the technique.
Okay.
It's about core strength, and it's entirely about your mental strength. It's never the heavy guy who gets the heavy lift. I mean, in my case, there has to be that exception, because I just walked in looking like a, thinny, nowhere there in terms of people with that kind of body. And even today, people have really looked back. Are you the one who got the national silver medal?
मैंने आपसे पूछा अभी.
So yes, it started like that. I just realized that it's not about weights. I got into this huge discipline mode, and I really practiced, and I realized it's all about breath management. How do you manage your breath and pump yourself right to prep yourself for the right weight? The core strength. And of course, the attitude that I can do it. I mean, well, let's raise the bar, So that's how it started.
So what's the self-talk you give yourself when you're lifting, like for example?
Actually, Pragyaan, there is no self-talk.
Yeah?
There's just the weight in me and the technique that I've practiced.
Just trust it.
It's silence. There's no music. There's no talk. This is the weight and I'm doing it. And my coach would always say, लोहे में सांत्वना नहीं होती है, लोहे में sentiments नहीं होते हैं. लोहा केवल ये जानता है कि आप उठा रहे हो उसको और आप उठा पाओगे कि नहीं. There is no emotions. It's clean slate. You go there, you take a look at the mirror, you brace the stance and you lift. It's neat. I mean, there is no storytelling. There's no back end, of course, there's a lot of storytelling. You tell yourself, yes, I've got it all practiced, I can do it. There's so many competitors. No, I can do it. So yeah, and then the journey started. My coach said, why not try? It's Delhi State, it's coming up. You're doing good. We can take a shot. I like shots. I said, okay, let's take shots.
Love risks.
I was like, let's take the shot. And I went to Delhi State, and it was just not me. I mean, I walked into this room. There was not a space to put my foot when I went there for my measurements, weight measurement. It was so crowded, and everybody had a body like... I was like, am I here? So, okay, I was like, yeah, we are going to go. Let's give it a try. And I tried, and it was... I obviously didn't compete open. I competed in my weight and age category, which was 40 to 50 was the age category, and masters category. Weight category was 63. 63 kgs, and I was just 62.5. So I made it to the weight measurement, and then Delhi State happened, and as I told you, there was no background noise. It was very different for me because as a police officer, you're used to a lot of space. And here I was in the middle of people and I was like wearing that dress, and getting the belt on, and there was no privacy. It was all happening in the open.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, now this is it. I mean, there's no shame. There's just the
Excitement.
stage, and there's the performance.
So what does it look like? Give me, like, you have a 1 round, 2
Yeah,
rounds.
so
How much do you pick up?
powerlifting is about 3 sets of events.
Okay.
There is the bench press, sit on the bench and you bench. There is the squat,
Okay.
the deep-seated squat, and there is the deadlift. So these 3 were the events,
And how
categories.
much did you lift to win
I went up to 280 kgs.
What? Say it again.
Yeah, 280 kgs, yes.
280
Yes,
kgs.
I did 280 kgs.
We were 63
and
kilo.
I got gold. So my coach came up to me and he had made it seem like I was just not performing enough. He's so tactful. Then he comes to me and he says, guess what? I like, batao, jo bhi hai, sun lenge. And he says, you got gold. So I was like, wow. So
No,
can
you
do
didn't
this.
say wow like this.
No,
But you
I
were-
freaked out. I freaked out. I was like, but I don't really freak out much. When I get success, I'm very calm. I was very calm. I just called up my husband. Bridge ho gaya, gold mil gaya. Let's party now. He was there. He was right outside the gate waiting for the medal announcements. And he was there all the time. He watched all my lifts and he didn't let me know he was there. So
That's very sweet.
yeah, he was there. Then he gave me the medal. They were so happy to see a IPS couple take on sports with such fervor.
Sure.
Yeah. And then the nationals happened. Nationals was a huge jump. From Delhi State to nationals is a leap
Okay.
because best players from the entire country are coming.
Sure.
And they're all professionals. They're not upstarts like me. I mean,
You're doing it as a hobby.
थोड़ा ये भी कर लिया सुबह arrangement के बाद ये भी कर रहा है. They're all professionals. The people who are like training for years and years. And I know the lady who got the gold there was already a 3-time gold champion. So what are we looking at?
Sure.
So I was like, if this is the equation, then might as well enjoy it.
Of course.
I actually did just enjoy myself. There was a lot of stress because every time my coach raised the bar by 10 kgs. It's like, if you have to get there, you're going to 10 kgs more than you normally compete. I'm like, okay, let me try.
So what's the heaviest you've lifted even in training?
Like deadlift, I went up to 130 kgs. Deadlift 130 kgs. Squat was 95 kgs. Bench was 65 kgs.
Wow.
So he just played on my mind. He knew that she's warmed up. She's come here with a positive spirit. If she has to win, because he was looking at the computer scoreboard and I was just lost in music. Like my headphones on and I don't really care.
Yeah.
But he would just come to me and say, now you've done this in your training. We practice this far. So this is the moment we go 10 kgs higher. So the last deadlift I had done was 115, 120 kgs. He said, we are doing 130 today. And it just was a series of successes and I got the silver medal. And it was beautiful. I mean, I got back to my room and obviously I just crashed.
Yeah.
It was such high adrenaline levels, so much focus, so much stress. I just came back and I slept. But what I'm saying was that moment when you just exceed yourself.
It's
When
surreal.
you say, it's not about your physical strength. It's about you telling yourself that I'm going to perform today no matter what. Of course, technique is there. You don't want to. Technique is what makes that possible.
Yeah.
So nationals was very, very, it was a huge surprise to me as a person. Of course, family also, but it was a huge surprise to get there in a year's time and flat 3 months.
Sure. But what contributes to that mental toughness that you're talking about? Because it's not something that just emerges one day, right? Like,
No.
you've been doing this, you've been pushing yourself constantly, whether it's at work, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in powerlifting. How have you decided that this is the way I want to live? Like constantly pushing yourself, because it's very easy to slumber down in a situation like you where most people have a tendency, haan, naukri lag gayi, it's a government job, theek hai, I have family, I have kids, I don't have much more to do. So why this constant need to push yourself? Where does it come from?
There was a defining moment in my life as a child. Through very close quarters, I witnessed an incident of sexual violence. I must have been 8, 9. There was just no one I could speak to. There was no one who understood the pain. There was just deep-seated agony and aggression. But what I want to talk about is that aggression I have nurtured, I have channelized, and especially in my job, where there are people, all kinds of victims, facing situations at home, at job, I want to be that listener to them. That child who was not heard wants to now hear these stories and wants to do something for all these people who are in situations where they don't know who to speak to. So it has been a very, very powerful force, in the sense that I want to create that environment where the victim feels the positivity to reach out.
And open up and share.
Which makes all the difference in that person's life. You may not get justice, but there is a release. And that can make the difference in that person's life. So in every single facet of my profession, I have been a very patient listener. And I have created spaces within the department or with complainants and society where people feel this is an officer I can speak to, this is an officer who's accessible, this is an officer who can understand. So that sensitivity I have nurtured. And also specifically want to say that anger I have nurtured. Because that anger drives me through all my pessimism. That anger channelizes me to search for positivity in the most difficult situations. That anger you see in that powerlifter who knows that no matter how gifted physically people may be around, ultimately it's my mental strength that will get me the medal. So yes, I want to talk to people and I want to tell them that nurture your aggression. Take lessons from that adversity and don't be quiet about it.
And let it define you in a very positive way, because that's what you've done. What you just shared is something very deep that I'm sure would be very difficult to talk about. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
But also, the reason why I feel what you've shared is extremely crucial today is because there are so many people who are going through their own versions of that struggle. And the tendency is, like it's been with me as well, where you feel like the victim. Instead, what you have done is you've converted that energy, that aggression, and that little Anita who could not talk to anyone or didn't have anyone else to listen to. Now you are becoming that listener for the whole world.
The mouthpiece for all those people.
Yeah, for the whole world.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Yeah, I just want to say this, that I have had so many moments of people breaking down in front of me.
Yeah.
Within the job, breaking down because they suddenly feel that there is somebody listening to them. That is actually quite rare in the systems that we work.
Oh.
So for me, those like aggression, for me those are the indices of success.
Yeah.
Today this person had a release. Something was pent up. I've given him that opening ground. So after that, you can get the courage and you can get the support systems. But till that first sharing happens, you're still a mute spectator.
Yeah, and you can't do anything unless I come up to you and share my problem. And you're creating that space for me to share that very personal agony and pain that I'm going through in my personal life, which I can't share with anyone. But you're creating that space. So my God, thank you so much for doing that. But also want to ask you that, does that also show up in your work today where that little Anita feels like you want to bring that protective instinct in whatever you do? You want to be that person who protects.
Actually, it's that little Anita everywhere, and that aggression she has, and because it's the same little girl everywhere. I feel I'm never satisfied, or I never want to sit pretty. I achieve and then I'm like, this is it, done now. I'm not so. I could try something new, and I'm not sorted at all.
Yeah.
I'm like continuously experimenting with new things, like you mentioned about communications. In my entire journey of policing, I believe, you can only communicate through social media a lot. So without having any tact of the trade, I started documentary making because I felt I need to tell this story.
Yeah.
The project is done, but who knows about it? Is it going to create any ripples in the minds of other people if I don't tell this story?
Yes.
So I think it's that compulsive storyteller maybe that's just looking for new formats to tell her story, whether it's documentaries or it's powerlifting or it's the mother. I think I'm just a very essential storyteller. I want to reach out. There's so much to tell, so many dynamic ways to reach out. So I love making documentaries. I made 4 or 5 for Delhi Police now on my own initiative. And every time I feel that story stays with you.
Yeah.
More than the project. So when we met in North, I screened this documentary on Udaan.
Oh, yes.
Udaan was a project where we decided to take empowerment back to where it should be. The lady constables who are choosing soft desk profiles. And why not maybe give them that little push to take on the beat job.
Get into
take
the
on
field.
Intelligence collection, take on, beat patrolling, late night patrols, take on criminal interrogation, why not do it? I mean, after all, what is empowerment if your lady constables are snug in their comfortable roles? And what are we discussing today in this century if we're not empowering our ladies
and getting them out there?
Yeah, and so then it again started with this need to tell their story, and I saw tremendous transformation. I mean, I so enjoyed that project because at that time I was a part of a fellowship, international fellowship, and I would come back and revisit. So I was in Harvard, and then I would come back and revisit. Where are my girls today? How are they doing? How have they taken on the system? So starting from the point where we started with around 30 girls, and Pragyaan, 25 of them were not interested. This is just going to be additional load. We are not interested in beat profiles. Our life is good.
हमें नहीं करना.
हमें नहीं करना है. हमें तनाव नहीं चाहिए. हमें हमारा नॉर्मल जो है, हमें बच्चे भी देखने हैं, घर भी संभालना है, वो इन-लॉज को भी देखना है. So I spoke to them. Okay, let's just try it out.
I'm sure you must have shared your personal story also.
I always speak in terms of my life. I mean, there is no role modeling here.
Correct.
There's always reality. So I would tell them that how I started with licensing, then I managed a district, then I managed a subdivision, and how it transformed me. So they understood that. They said, okay, there was an openness to trying. Then I really calibrated a very, 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 very motivating training program. I believe a lot in training. I believe capacity building is the core. So I worked on them. I got them the best lecturers, and they felt valued. Because I even went into things like, what would they have in their lunch break?
Acha?
Yes, these girls don't have to feel like it's a routine training. They have to feel that I'm
Special.
gearing them for something special. And guess what? They would come back and say, Ma'am, khana aaj acha tha. These little things. Like when we go abroad, how much does that coffee break matter to us?
Yes.
So why not these girls? Are they any less? Are they going through a lesser transformation? So I would interact richly with them, and then the transformation happened as they went on to the beat responsibilities. Some of them just left everything behind. They really took on the job. They enjoyed it. They felt that this was what they were missing. They were not content doing those CCT and entries.
So basically, your infection,
Yes,
or rather your
I infected
energy.
everyone.
Yes, you infected
yes,
everyone.
we were all infected. The whole district was infected.
With
because
this passion and high energy.
Pragyaan, they would come and tell me stories about what's happening in the police station. They were my agents.
Yeah.
Like, what's going wrong with the SHO, and how he's not treating lady officers well, and lady complainants are not. And guess what? All this thing we keep talking about, image of policing, proactiveness, everything went for a turnaround because that lady sitting in that pink booth became a source of intelligence collection. She became a source of unbiased intelligence collection.
Yeah.
In police, all you generally get is whatever's left.
Which is very little.
Yeah. So there they got information from the this beat Majnu ka Tila. They would get information on drugs कहाँ से आ रही हैं. वो जो चुपचाप घर में बैठी हुई है वाइफ वो जानती है. वो किसको बताएगी? कोई पूछने वाला तो है नहीं.
Correct.
उसका फेथ नहीं है किसी में. वो इनको आके बताती थी. So the intelligence started flowing in from all directions, and then the lonesome pink booth became a vibrant point.
Community center,
yes,
in a way.
Women would come and share. आज मेरे पति ने मारा मुझे, मैं क्या करूं? तो इतनी सारी चीज़ें आपको उस लेवल पे मिलने लग गई. एक इमेज टर्न अराउंड हुआ. So that's what I'm saying, that storytelling. These girls were telling my story and I wanted to tell their story. So it multiplied. The energy just multiplied. So
Yeah.
I have this thirst to share, to communicate, to tell. I think that's where it's coming from.
No, I mean, and like I was saying, I think you're not just doing it for yourself, you're also in the process inspiring other people to see in them what they can't see themselves. Pushing
Yeah,
themselves
absolutely.
to be that, booth person from beyond being a desk job.
I have just believed one thing. The human potential is actually unbound. I've worked with this. How do I become a powerlifter if I keep thinking how big are my biceps, how much is my weight? Just imagine you can do it. I believe that's where communication again. How do you affirm to yourself if you don't open up to possibilities?
Yes.
So that's what I would tell these girls. ठीक है, आज आप परेशान हो, आज घर में भी माहौल ठीक नहीं है, बच्चे को स्कूल पे नहीं ड्रॉप कर पाए, लेकिन आप अपने आप तो खुशी फील कर रहे हो. सेल्फ वर्थ कितनी बड़ी चीज़ है. These women felt self worth. So I was like, wow, I have achieved what I wanted. I don't care where the statistics go, but these girls are telling a story that can only be told if we work as a team.
Yeah. No, and self-worth is huge, right? Because like you were saying, in society today, women are perceived in a particular fashion, right? There's a lot of stereotypes, there's lots of limiting factors around them, their environment, that they don't feel empowered to achieve their potential. So I just want to, also talk about the self-worth that, even for yourself, like how do you continuously keep rebuilding that? I'm sure there are days when you are down and out, when everything is not going your way.
Oh, yes.
How do you really dig deep and find that reason to show up and to go out and still continue to inspire people around you?
I think it's because deep down I'm a poet. And, good poems just get me moving. I mean, it could be Nelson Mandela's Invictus, or it could be any quote that I read. I go into the depth of that, and it's always optimism. So yes, there are very bad days, and days when I feel that things are not working out at all, and it's just pointless.
Yeah.
People don't really care, and yet why am I doing this?
Yes.
Yeah. And what did I get? Those fundamental questions. How many brownie points did I get? But trust me, what stays with you is what you gave. And there's a clear resonation. That energy, that optimism resonates. And that's why when I evaluate myself as a professional, only two things matter to me. Like, how did my peon in the office think about me? Did he feel that I'd lost my temper on him for little things? Or how did my close subordinates feel? Did I put the pressure on them, beyond a point where they could take it? Did I handhold them? Yeah. Did I touch them by asking them about their health issues? So yeah, I mean,
That's what success looks
that's
like
what
for you?
success looks like to me.
Yeah.
It's the team feeling, it's the energy that you give and that you get.
Sure.
You get those blessings, you get that positivity. You can never get it through manipulating statistics. You can never get it through, like, I've had all kinds of postings. I think I have had a good share. I've been everywhere. I've been in training. I talked to you about training.
Yes.
I had 3 people to run the show. I've been in, licensing. I've been in the field. I've been in security. And my last profile, I just handed over charge, was security, where I was handling the logistics for technology and everything. So again, I mean, what mattered was those 9 months we worked like a team.
Yeah.
We turned around the, the dynamic of the back-end infrastructure of security. I can't do that myself. I can't do it. But I can do it by being nice to the guy who's putting the noting,
And getting them
making him
along.
responsible to follow up, encouraging him
Yeah.
that, good. Let me reward you today.
Yeah, no,
Let me send you,
absolutely.
like, all my lady officers are super, super fan. I'm like, you guys will go home on time.
Yeah.
It's because women run families also. If you can do it in a setup where you have a more or less, administrative profile, then why delay them beyond 6? I mean, I would tell them, I can sit in office, but you go home. So that's the thing. I mean, that's not possible without, taking the team along. So that's success.
But tell me, how do you stay so positive? I mean, sometimes when I open the newspaper and all I read about is यहाँ पे ये rape हो गया, यहाँ पे ये burglary हो गई, or you read about, that the stabbing case that recently happened in Delhi, and you guys are at the forefront of this. How do you still believe in humanity? Because मतलब मेरा तो वो बोलते हैं ना, भरोसा ही उठ गया है कि how do you trust someone? How do you actually continue to treat them as a human when you see the atrocities that they commit with other human beings? How do you stay human and keep seeing the positive side?
Pragya,
Don't tell me it's easy, huh?
no, it's not easy.
Haan.
And I'm giving it to you straight. In policing, you see the worst. You see dead bodies, you see mutilated souls, you see depraved souls, you see lost innocence. You see it all. And I love to see reality in all its grays. Don't give me black and white.
Yeah.
Don't give me that cute story. Like I said, storytelling, you have to see it. It is grey. Even if you're not in police and you're a married woman and you're quiet about all that you see at home, the greys are where the reality is. And I really cherish this thing about where I am, that I have seen it straight on.
Yeah.
If it was a postmortem, I would show up. I would see the entire thing like a scientist.
Really?
I would see where the bullet went, was the exit wound, what was the injury that caused it. I pursue truth.
Because you're curious.
I'm curious. I want to see it. I want to see what caused it. So that helps me everywhere. That helps me when I'm investigating. That helps me when I'm talking to that boy who had a sodomy experience. So it is through the lenses of reality that you find optimism. I don't know why people say that there's so much of pessimism. And I have thought a lot about this whenever people ask me, who are your role models? Pragyaan, you know who my role model is? It's that woman who gets beaten every day and yet comes one fine day to lodge a complaint.
Yeah.
She's there. She's taken that step.
It's huge.
I see that as success. Or for that matter, that during our training sessions in schools, some little girl would come and say, I'm facing this at home. Can police help? So if you're not there, and if you don't face reality, you will never get to those voices. So I get my optimism by hearing everything. I want those voices to come to me. And they're very muffled, but they're very distinctive.
Yeah.
So I want to hear that. I don't want to hide myself in a glamorous setting and,
In an office
no
with
way.
the door shut.
No way.
Yeah.
I want it all. I want to see crime happening. This is real.
Yeah, see, be in the middle of the action, but when you see something like that, don't you also, being a mother, sometimes question what sort of a society and environment am I bringing my kids into, or my daughter especially into? We all know how unsafe Delhi is, and you're here and you're contributing, you're doing your bit to make society safe, but don't you ask those very existential questions? Because we all do at some point, right? Except we don't have the power to make a change, and you do.
Oh, okay, two things. This whole question of or concept of safety, it won't come from your setting or it won't come from the environment. It'll always come from within.
Tell me more.
You're as safe as you kind of have the courage to fight. So how I talk to my daughter when I'm coming back from a very rough situation, that is my healing. I mean, I talk to her.
Sure.
And she's so straight. I mean, she's just asked questions that are so straight.
How old is she?
She's 8, but
Achha.
she's been like this since I know.
I mean, like they say, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
She really looks me in the eye and she asks me things that, मतलब, ममा ऐसा है कि आप पुलिस में हो और सब आपको रोड पे सल्यूट करते हैं, घर आते हो तो ये कुछ नहीं रहता है, तो तब आप स्माइल करते हो, तब अच्छा लगता है. So that's real strength.
Yeah.
That you don't need that apparatus to feel strong.
Sure.
So, I mean, I get my strength from there. When long back, before I joined service, and Dad was in the service, and I used to walk a lonely stretch from home to All India Radio. I would do some radio jockeying for a year and a half. I did some radio jockeying.
Oh, wow.
But that walk from a very sheltered upbringing, I was big enough.
Very
I was 18, 19.
Yeah.
But I would insist, my mom would say, Kya, what are you going to FM? Pittance they are paying you. What are you, it's not safe. But I would insist on doing that late night show. So let me see how it feels to be a civilian. How do I walk that stretch and I come back in the morning, early morning? I would walk. I mean,
yeah,
I would
your
walk.
dad would allow it?
Yeah, I would walk. So there was no car picking up and dropping me. I would walk. It is not very far.
Sure.
Not more than 200 meters. But that Anita wanted to see the fear that she faces. To be able to confront it, you have to see it. So I encourage my children to see things, to keep observing.
But doesn't that seeing also color them? And wouldn't they grow up too quickly if they were to see this level of atrocity?
I discuss everything with my children.
That's very cool.
Everything.
That's very cool.
I tell them, okay, if there's a crime, if my daughter is interested enough to hear out after a tiring day, I tell her the truth. This is how it unfolded, and these were the characters in the story.
Yeah.
What's your take? That story doesn't end with the real story. The story ends with her take.
Oh.
So I'm encouraging her to, derive her lessons.
Also to develop the skill of really finding the truth through the various perspectives
and
you're sharing with her.
She gets the conclusion straight away.
Yeah.
There's no beating around the bush.
Yeah,
There's no beating
that
around the
way.
bush. This is it. Why does such a long story to tell me this one thing? So I really do believe in that kind of education. I had a very sheltered upbringing, and when I had walked into policing, it suddenly was a deluge of everything that I was protected from.
Yeah.
I don't want to overprotect my children. I want to expose them to things. Of course, yes, we have to make it slightly, we have to space it out.
Sure, of course.
But you cannot not ask them to see what's in the papers. That's everywhere. That's there on media. That's there on social media.
They'll
Today I
find
can
it.
stop them. Tomorrow they'll find it. So why not talk to them about it?
Yeah. That's true. But what is it that you would advise, so many young women who are in Delhi going around, and, what are some of the things they can do to stay safe beyond the fact that, okay, I want to feel like I'm strong and I can stand against no matter what comes my way. But there's something more. There has to be something more. So, what are your some tips and tricks
Yeah.
that you can share
So,
on?
like most of my tips are that go all back to philosophy.
Please.
See, whenever I've interacted with a female complainant, I just tell them two things. It could be a situation. A lot of girls are in this situation today that where they walked into a relationship willingly,
Yeah.
has turned bitter, and they're somewhere, in the realm of poor self-worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And accepting the situation and not talking about it. Parents obviously just don't get spoken to. Forget about coming to the police.
वो तो बहुत दूर की
वो तो
बात
बहुत
है.
दूर की बात है. Peers से भी they don't share. तो मैं यही इसी चीज़ पे मैं ज़्यादा dwell करना चाहती हूँ कि it's okay to be in relationships. Firstly, don't punish yourself for things that are natural to you. There is no morality issue here.
Very true. I agree.
Let's just face it. I mean, a man can be dating, a woman can be dating.
Yeah.
There are ways of defining who you are. You're growing up. You seek your definition through the relationships that you're part of. So it's perfectly healthy. Healthy to be in a relationship. But issue happens when you get into that zone of emotional blackmail. Because you have cut yourself out from friends.
Yes.
There may be situations, there are so many situations I feel where women are actually, like stealing at home to give money. Or they could be in brutal sexual equations and not talking about it. So that comes from this lack of self-worth and shutting yourself down.
Yeah.
Those are suicidal situations. That could lead to suicide. That could lead to self-annihilation as a person, and that can be life scarring. So that's what I tell women. Number one, be yourself. It's okay. It's healthy to seek out friendships. But what is not healthy is over-relying emotionally and not sharing things that are happening to you with anyone.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, people don't even know. Like this whole Shraddha thing. I mean, what do you make out of it?
Yeah.
What do you make out of it? This woman was taking it. She was not talking to her parents. She saw it all coming.
She's written it, she's journaled it, she's
She
spoken about
saw it all coming.
Yeah.
She did not speak up. How sad is that? I mean, that's what I harp upon. That's why all these, self-defense training classes, Sashakti, let's speak about it. You may not be comfortable with all. You could start with a friend. I'm not even saying police is nearby.
Sure.
But now we are building inroads into schools, colleges, and there's always a women help desk. Start with that one effort, which is why I said my real heroes are those women who, coming from very traditional backgrounds, have taken maybe 15 years of domestic violence. But एक दिन वो आती है, वो बोलेगी. अब हम उसको कैसे हैंडल करते हैं, that is important. But उसने तो अपना काम कर दिया.
और उस टाइम अगर आपने उसको इक्वल रिस्पॉन्स नहीं दिया, मान लीजिए,
that's where we matter.
Yes.
That's where our sensitive handling matters. That's where Udan matters.
Yes.
If a lady who's sensitized, trained, educated, capable, self-worth will face that complainant will feel there is relief. At the end of the day, it's about reassurance.
Yes.
We may not be able to solve all domestic violence situations, but I was heard. And I was given a law position, or that rogue of a husband was called. Yes. I don't forgive me for that.
No.
I'm just talking about the woman in the domestic violence context. I don't want to sound too gendered, but yeah. So that's what I tell women. It's same thing with cybercrime. They just don't put the stop.
And people are losing money.
Losing
and lakhs of money, their savings.
money तो फिर
नहीं।
भी सेकेंडरी सेल्फ वर्थ ही खत्म हो रहा
हाँ,
है.
नहीं, क्योंकि और बोलेंगे भी नहीं
बोलेंगे भी नहीं.
कि मेरी गलती की वजह से
Yeah.
मेरे अकाउंट से 2 लाख रुपए चले गए. अगर आप बोलोगे, चलो कोई आपको बोलेगा ये बहुत तुमने बेवकूफ़ी करी, बट उसके आगे जाके मदद करेगा ना.
That's what I tell these complainants. Why don't you put pressure on the police machinery?
Ask
Come
for
ahead.
accountability.
Ask for accountability. It's a two-way process.
Yeah.
I'll be very happy if no complaint comes to the police station. But I would be equally happy if one came,
Yeah.
or two came, or even 10 came.
Yeah.
And they said, we want action. So, good.
Yeah, no, makes sense. I also want to ask you, like in any other organization, but more so, government organizations which are so huge and massive, these are large agencies, right? There is a lot of politics, internal. How
Yes.
do you navigate around this politics? What keeps you going with the same amount of passion and going out there and creating impact every day when there's somebody who you know is like waiting to pull you down, or there are 5 people going and telling your commissioner of police or your senior that Anita ne ye kiya aur ye theek nahi tha, and there's a lot of politics that goes
Yeah.
on. How do you still keep that positive energy, and how do you deal with it?
It's a very contradictory thing for me to share, but what I'll tell you is the best way to deal with politics is stay away from it.
Cut it out.
Don't buy the judgments. You have a good equation with your boss. Let him know your stand, and keep your team united. And people ask me power, uniform, So I say power is intrinsic.
Yeah.
I was as powerful. Actually, when I look back at my portfolio, sometimes you have to. And I look back and I see that powerless Anita Roy with 3 people train 8,000 people in CPR. We saved so many precious lives in the golden hour.
Yeah.
So that was not a plum posting. It didn't affect the politics.
Yeah.
I was just there. I did it. So power is intrinsic. It'll come with the persona. It will come with the meaning that you're bringing to the profile. Are you there for the recognition? Are you there for purpose? What are you there for?
No, you said something very profound there, that intrinsic power will show up in no matter what avatar you're in.
Absolutely.
So the uniform is just another
It's just a
addition
dimension.
to your intrinsic power.
It's just a dimension. It's just a dimension where you get yet I would say that why I love the uniform is because it has such a huge social currency.
Yes. But huge social currency.
Yeah.
To do good.
To do good.
And to do the other.
And to do the other. But
Yeah.
I'm talking in terms of innocent minds who see you as, So it has a social currency, at least to the extent that people say, I will get ready justice.
Yeah.
There's no knocking courts. I have been beaten. I need redressal.
Yes. And I need it now.
That is power.
Yeah.
If I'm in that situation and I can at least make the the aggrieved person sit or the victimizer accountable without having any labyrinth of court procedure, there is power. So the uniform has a lot of social currency. It is power, but power is also detachment, Pragyaan. Detachment. It just seize the day and then let it go.
Yeah.
You've done your bit. Now go home. It's time to relax.
So what keeps you grounded? Because that power can be very addictive.
Because how I define power. I've never defined power in terms of, really it has never been about the right postings. I was never the person who clearly tried to manipulate statistics to get recognition. And it was almost never about getting too much recognition from my bosses.
Yeah.
I was indifferent to those facets. I was more like, I'm here today. What difference can I make? It could be in any small or big way, but can I make a difference?
Yeah.
It could be anything. It could be DCP security. It could be DCP Supreme Court. It could be DCP license, ACP licensing. It could be additional DCP North. But the person doesn't change.
Yeah, and also this concept of plum posting is a very in-service kind of concept, because as a citizen, no matter where you are, the beauty of a government agency is you can bring change no matter where you are,
Exactly.
because you're constantly interacting with citizens.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
there's nothing like good or bad. You have the ability to
There's
change
really
lives.
nothing like that. There's
Yeah.
really, you just have to, you just have to have the honesty to try out, to innovate.
And be true to yourself
And
every
be true
day.
to yourself. If you can innovate, you have power.
Yeah.
You can do it in any humble way. What ripples are you creating? What are you giving back? That is what I seek.
No, this has been super inspirational. And so, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to? And where are you going to be now, spreading your infectious energy of redefining yourself and making sure women are constantly
Pragyaan,
pushing?
I'm just beginning. I'm just beginning. I don't know where I'm going. I just wake up I really wake up every day like a clean slate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I feel like try this thing new, try that thing new, go out with a friend for dinner, spend time with your children.
Yeah.
I will tell all my officers that 20 years down the line, nobody would know that you were this great officer, but the sacrifices you made will affect your children.
Yes.
Give them time. Give them time. They are the nucleus you are bringing to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So make sure that you harvest them well.
Absolutely. No, the times you remember are the ones spent in warm company, right?
Absolutely.
So I
100%.
I completely agree.
100%.
But this conversation has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And every story that you have told us has also made me introspect on what can I do in my little locus of impact and change that I can bring in my...
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think we have a certain sense on how police officers are and what they show up like, and I think you are multifaceted, right? Where there is a side of you where you're a mother, you're a police officer, you're a daughter, you're also a power lifter, redefining even there. So thank you so much.
No, I'm thankful to you because I took my time to come here, but I knew this was right, and I was in a mood to talk.
Very important.
And Pragyaan, like I just figured out, is about intuition. So
Yes.
This was entirely spontaneous. For all the preparation that I thought I would make, your questions were so spontaneous, and the beauty of it is getting to talk.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't want it any other way, because I think what you said about intuition, that seems to be a running thread even in the decisions that you've made, right? When you spoke about interrogation, when you spoke about inspiring those women, or anything else that you do, I think there's a voice in your heart that tells you, hey, do this and not that.
Yeah, that's why I stay away from politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that you hear those sounds.
Because it colors your judgment.
Stay away from, vested interests.
Yeah.
There's so much more to do. So you get the sounds coming. As long as you can hear and listen, you can be alive to yourself and the voice within, Pragyaan, I guess. So staying alive to that voice, this is all about it. That's why these pluralities.
Very beautifully put. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was
Thanks a lot.
wonderful.
Thanks to your team as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming over and spending and having
Great.
this conversation
Great,
with
great,
us.
great.